Hi there, wonderful people. It's Aria Pampa here, and today I thought I'd do another journey series. So I think the way this journey series is forming up is going to be just me telling you about situations I face in the present. Some might be things I've gone through in the past, but also things I'm working through in the present and learning as I go ahead. So today I wanted to speak about the role of mediators and speaking your audience's language. Let me explain. So there was somebody I'd been speaking to for a while, and somehow I just felt we weren't communicating properly. I was asking for something, he was asking for something else, or speaking to me about something else, and somehow we just were not connecting, and I was getting frustrated. The other party was getting frustrated. I was like, you know what? I'm tired. I'm fed up. I'm just leaving this. So instead, I called somebody who could act in the role of mediator, in a sense, somebody that was a bit more neutral in the situation. So I called that other person up and said, okay, look, this is the issue I'm facing. This is what I'm trying to tell this person. This person is giving me a completely different answer, an answer that answers maybe some other question that I didn't ask, but then something else. And I'm just frustrated and I need to make a decision pretty soon. So can you just speak to this guy, please? And let me understand what's going on. We spoke to him. He got the details. He also got the idea of what I was talking about. And then, what I then said is, okay, let's all come together on one call and discuss the issue. In so doing, before I called the other party I was having a misunderstanding in the sense of we just were not understanding each other. Before I called him up, I told the other guy that, look, because they're from the same place or same area, so they have a language over there, which is their local language, not English. So I said, you understand what I'm trying to do here? So if when we're talking, it's somehow not coming through, even as you're mediating our conversation, feel free to switch to your language because it could make things easier. At first he chuckled and it was like, nah, probably no need. But I was like, look, to get the message across, if you need to, do so. And then we started the conversation. I brought the other person on board. I said, okay, look, this is my position. So I repeated my stance and then asked him a few questions again. And again, he was giving me something completely different to what I was asking for. And then the mediator stepped in, started speaking in English. But before you know it, they switched to their language and were talking to each other. And after doing that, the guy came back and was like, okay, he gets it now, right? And he can actually make it work out. I'm trying not to give too many details. I'm sorry I sound like I'm being very, very vague. But the summary of the issue was, there were two lessons I've learned, but I think I found a way of putting them into practice. Number one is that sometimes the role of the mediator is very important. Someone who understands both parties and can help both parties talk together or talk to each other in a way that they understand each other. It's sort of the role like an interpreter might play sometimes. So somebody speaking one language, the interpreter interprets it to the other person. The person speaks back and then he interprets it into the other person's language. That's sort of the role a mediator plays. And sometimes a mediator may also play the part of a neutral party where they are not necessarily invested in the situation, but to either side, it doesn't feel like they're taking sides. Instead, they are there to kind of find a middle ground where both parties who are having this misunderstanding can come together and find a way forward. With regards to speaking their language, a phrase that's often attributed to Nelson Mandela goes, speak to a man in English, you speak to his head. Speak to a man in his own language, you speak to his heart. And I have found that sometimes when people take the time and effort to try and speak to somebody in the language they understand, both, when I say language, I do mean it metaphorically, but also literally. You can get things passed across a lot better, which is why I think it's very important to A, engage a mediator, B, also engage the person you're trying to speak to in their language. An example I can give you actually was one where it was during a voiceover engagement I was involved in. And in my role in this was playing the role of an agent. So getting a voiceover artist to come on board and voice a particular script, but they needed a particular genre, and I understood that genre, and I knew where to find somebody who could actually fulfill that role. But my role as well was also in the form of a mediator. So it was a role to do with, it was a voiceover piece that we had to do, which was, it was an animation, but based on characters from Africa. Now, in that situation, I acted as a mediator because there were some things that the director wasn't African, but parts of the animation were based in Africa, so they needed somebody who understood it. And there are just some little nuances that it helped to have somebody neutral. So me not being the voiceover artist, but me playing the role sort of as assistant director, where the director says sort of what he's going for in the lines. And then sometimes I have to, or I end up saying it in a way the other artist understands. So, and also there was a bit of a language barrier as well, in that the director didn't necessarily speak English, wasn't his first language, sort of thing. So it was kind of finding a way to make everything work together. And for me, in that particular situation anyway, the role I played was more interpreting. So for example, we say, okay, the guy needs to speak in a way that's very forceful, but very dark, and I then had to interpret that to the voiceover client. So when he did a few takes, I was like, okay, you're not quite getting it. You see, the way you say, yeah, end each sentence with that sort of tone, and then make it a bit upset, a bit angry, and then let everything land with a weight. That was the sort of direction I gave him. Then he started with that. I was like, okay, yes, exactly. Now keep going with that. And then we had another scene where the character was talking to a child, and you wanted to show that affection and not make it sound red, but almost like you can feel the affection from the person, from the voice that you're hearing. So things like, okay, like the director would say something like, oh, sound jovial, sound happy to see her. And I would then say, okay, speak to the person, because I knew the person. I was like, okay, imagine it's your daughter and you're happy about something she's done. Say it as you would say it to your daughter. Smile. How would you say something when you're trying to get her to understand that what she's basically asking for is unreasonable, but you find it cute? So we started off with, okay, try smiling. Okay, and then, okay, so I'm speaking to the guy, says, try smiling. Okay, that's fine. And then it's like, okay, say it as you would say it to your daughter. And then he adds a little bit like, my daughter, don't worry, eh? Okay, now that eh in the recording wasn't necessarily, it definitely was not on the script, but it was an African thing. It was like a nuance. And I was like, okay, yeah, that could actually work. So I explained to the director what that was. And he's like, okay, fine, that's cool. Let's leave that in. So sometimes it's nice to have somebody who, sometimes you have a grand vision, but in order to be able to translate it to the people who would actually go ahead and do the work, it can be quite helpful to have a mediator or somebody who can say it in the language of the person that you're trying to communicate to. So those were just some thoughts, some things that happened recently that I felt would be good to share. In summary, anyway, the point is, sometimes when you have to deliver a message, it is deliver a message or get people to be on the same page and understand what you're saying. Sometimes the role of, it might be very useful to have a mediator in that place who can speak the person's language, so can speak the other party's language, but also can be a neutral party to ensure that both parties are understanding each other and are able to find a middle ground in order for them to proceed with whatever they're working on. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed that, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Take care. Tell me what you think about it, by the way. So just leave me a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe, but definitely leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Have you ever been in a situation where having a mediator was helpful? Or have you been in a situation where it actually was counterproductive? Tell me about it in the comments. All right. Hope to see you later. Take care. Bye.